Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. And we got lots and lots and lots of headlines to cover today. We're going to read a letter by Woody Allen that describes Epstein's dinners as some kind of weird vampire cult. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the show today. But first, just hours after yesterday's show, and I told you that Ghislaine Maxwell would exonerate Trump. And hours after the show, she exonerated Trump. We knew this was going to happen. It was a setup from the get-go. I think these people they script all this stuff out, right? So they're like, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to create distance between Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell? How are we going to figure this out? And they go, okay, we'll pretend to put her in jail. And then we'll pretend to go interview her to expose the Democrats. And then as a side note, we'll have her say something like Trump had nothing to do with all this. And sure enough, this is exactly what they did. I couldn't even believe this. Literally hours after we talked about this, Ghislaine Maxwell told the Justice Department she never saw Trump do anything concerning with Epstein. Unbelievable. Now, if this is any clue about how corruption works, you should take special note of this. Wow. Now, let's read about this, and then we'll get into some of these other headlines. I got lots of headlines for you guys today. Said that she never saw Donald Trump do anything that would cause concern. Really? During her hours-long meetings with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. And the Trump administration is considering whether to release the transcript from the messages. So we were talking about this, but just in case, they want you to know that, there was no implication of Trump in this whatsoever. He did absolutely nothing wrong. Really? White House has been trying to contain fallout from the so-called Epstein files for weeks after the Justice Department memo concluded there were no more significant disclosures to be made in the case. We've got Vance holding a strategy meeting with top officials. You guys, this thing has come unglued. The White House is even approaching. Let's see. Let's pull up that story here. Where'd it go? They actually even talked to Joe Rogan to see if he could stop talking about the Epstein files. Like, this is where we're living now, you guys. This is the state of the union, as they say, right? So now a lot of MAGA people and all this, they're gonna go, okay, see, everything's just fine. I know it looks bad, but we'd rather take Trump with all the other good stuff he's doing, and let's just forget about all this. But hopefully this is not going away, because this is definitely something that needs to be exposed. Now, let's get into some of this stuff that was found inside of Epstein's house that just released. Thanks to the subscriber who emailed me the inside of Epstein's house, showing the cameras, showing the pictures of friends. Let's take a look, you guys. These were the cameras. They were like up above the molding here. There's this space up here between the molding and the ceiling. And these were where some of the cameras were found in some of these photos. And what else? Now, why are they releasing all this now? Well, good question. Well, they can release it now, right? Because now everything's been framed against the backdrop of left versus right. So now anybody showing this stuff is going to be seen as a left-wing nut, right? That just wants to do anything to take Trump down. So this is the perfect backdrop to start disclosing some of this information so it all could be absorbed into the news cycle and washed away. Here is one of Epstein's shelves showing the Pope and many other people. Mick Jagger, Elon Musk, Fidel Castro. Wow. Now, what else? Well, this is the famed Woody Allen letter. Of course, Woody Allen is a known keyword. And this was a letter that he sent to Epstein on his 63rd birthday. And this we covered this in yesterday's show, but the news, the way that they covered it in the news story, completely overlooked the larger looming story. And that is that Woody Allen literally describes these dinner parties as some kind of vampire gathering. Now, it's a little bit subtle, but we're going to read this letter word for word. Let's begin here. Being neighbors, my wife Soon Yi and I have been invited for dinner many times. Always accept, always interesting. Wide variety of interesting people at every dinner, just about. Politicians, scientists, teachers, magicians, comedians, intellectuals, journalists, an entomologist, a concert pianist. So he's basically setting the stage here. He's basically saying anybody could be one of these people in plain sight. Let's keep reading. Anyhow, it's always interesting, and the food is sumptuous and abundant. Lots of dishes, plenty of choices, numerous desserts, well served. I say well served. Often it's by some professional houseman, and just as often by several young women, reminding one of Castle Dracula, where Lugosi has 3 young female vampires who service the place. Add to this that Jeffrey lives in a vast house alone. One can picture him sleeping in damp earth. But back to the food. Dependably a fine dinner. But this was not always the case. In fact, so here's where we get into the rest of the story. First, he starts out describing all these dishes and this and this and that, right? And then something changed. In fact, the first time we came over, it was a very different story. Now, remember, he just got done talking about vampires, which, of course, don't eat food, they drink blood. We are invited with a list of accomplished types, men and women, in journalism, in TV, even royalty. We were ushered up to the living room where everyone sat around prior to dinner being served and chatted. No drinks were served. You could get one if you asked for one. That should have been the first clue. First clue to what? Let's keep reading. When the meal was put out downstairs, it was meager. So meager, my wife, the one sitting next to her, kept mumbling, "Is this it? Is this all we're getting? After I leave, I may go to a restaurant." We didn't want to say anything, but we came the next time. But my wife did say, in that tactful way she has, "There is going to be more food, isn't there?" Under her badgering, the situation gradually improved, and subsequent dinners offered buckets of Chinese food ordered from a local restaurant and placed out on a buffet where one could get in line and help oneself. Now, understand he was already a multimillionaire, probably a billionaire at this point, and the fact that he was inviting all of these people to his house, people of note, as you just heard in the media, heads of state and things like this, there's no reason why he couldn't have had food catered. There was some other element to this that Woody Allen is skirting around, isn't he? Let's keep reading. It all seemed odd for a man of substance, which is what I just said, who entertained many illustrious guests often. Under continued badgering by my wife, arrangements were made for food to be cooked at home and served. She had to explain the order in which things come out. Not the main course and then the appetizer, but the other way around. In time, she bullied him into putting a few flowers in the middle of the table to make it look mildly warm and inviting. This took time and a number of corrections, but his meals have been tweaked into some sense of normal, civil dining. The large phone and computer at his right hand does take some of the relaxed home cooking atmosphere out of it, but one can't have everything, not at Castle Dracula. Whoa. Now, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Is there the inference that the main course is not food at all? What are your thoughts on this? I'm going to do a quick poll just because I'm curious as to what you guys think. That was the impression that I got. Were Epstein's guests having blood as the main course? Now, as this poll begins to roll, we're going to cover some other stories. As the cover up continues, Tulsi Gabbard was asked a direct question and completely dodged the question about whether or not Epstein was CIA. The story just broke yesterday. Let's hear this here.
Intelligence asset, the Epstein. Do you think there is any evidence that he could have been a intelligence asset, either for us or for foreign agencies?
I can tell you, I haven't seen anything that's come across my desk that reflects that. If that were to change and there was some credible information or intelligence that did come to light, the president has made clear if there's anything that's credible out there, put it out there for the American people to see. And I would do exactly.
Wow. So completely dodges the question. Nothing she's seen, but something could come to light later in case anyone finds it or anyone is holding on to this information that could prove this, then they're still off the hook. They should know for a matter of fact if he was an asset, because presidents hand down information, especially important information like this, from the era in which Epstein was operating, which was probably like the Bush era and into the Obama era. All of this should have been disclosed to them, who their assets are. This should be a slam dunk, but it gets washed over by Tulsi Gabbard. Wow. Now, check this out. Epstein was still on the books as a member of Mar-a-Lago long after he was indicted. Now, what this suggests is that the reasons why Trump gave us that he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago were completely bunk. It was likely he was just creating some distance from a hot potato, which is what I've said all along. Anyone can make up any story about a breakup, right? Let's read this. Epstein continued to be a member of Donald Trump's luxury private members club for more than a year after he was indicted, according to Mar-a-Lago membership documents seen by the authors of the book. President told reporters that he cut ties with Epstein after he stole female workers from his Florida members club. But the revelation that he was allegedly still a member of the club 7 years after he poached Virginia Giuffre from the spa raises questions over Trump's version of events. So, 7 years after he stole Virginia Giuffre, he was still a member of the club, and 1 year after he was indicted. And if someone is really going to, cut ties, they would have uninvited him as a guest from Mar-a-Lago. So all is not what it seems, you guys. Now, here's the story on Joe Rogan that I was looking for earlier. Trump aides plan to plead with Joe Rogan to end the Epstein crisis. Joe Rogan is pretending to go after Trump and expose all this, but of course, it's too little too late. Joe Rogan already helped him get elected. Not that we had any choices, but what Joe Rogan should have said was, our whole system is broken. There is no choice, so don't vote. That would have been a much stronger message to his base, but instead he said, vote Trump. And now, whatever he says, I don't believe. And so now we've got presidents contacting podcasters, influencers, to try to change the course of the public narrative. Now, I just heard a story. Let me check in with you guys and look at this poll. I just read also, I saw Candace Owens said that Trump reached out to her as well. We have presidents reaching out to podcasters, you guys, telling them what to do. in the case of Candace Owens, and you guys probably just heard about this, it's just happened a couple days ago. Trump asked Candace Owens to stop going after Bridget Macron about this whole transvestigation going on. You guys hear about this? So her response was, oh, I believe in freedom of speech. I'm going to double down on this. But at the end of the day, when I looked at this whole Candace Owens story, to me, it just seemed like one giant distraction away from Trump and the Epstein files. So the conversation she probably really had with Trump was, hey, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Takes the heat off of me. Unbelievable. Now it's in this poll here. So most of you believe there was something else as the main course for dinner. Thank you for chiming in on that. Now, what else is going on? Well, let's see here. Oh, let's check out this story. This is crazy. Gosh, I got so many tabs over here. Sorry, guys. Let's try this. James Cameron admits that we are approaching a Terminator scenario. And never, ever, ever forget, you guys, the two children of the tech billionaire, Larry Ellison, who is the second richest man in the world, they own the Terminator franchise. Literally the second richest man in the world's children own the Terminator franchise. David and Megan Ellison, they acquired the rights in 2011. And in another strange twist of fate, a man named Harlan Ellison, same name but unrelated, apparently, he's claiming that he was the one that came up with the Terminator idea, and they plagiarized from his Outer Limits episodes called Soldier and Demon with a Glass Hand. Harlan Ellison. Welcome to the Matrix, you guys. Welcome to the Matrix. Now let's see what James Cameron has to say about all this. There's danger of a Terminator-style apocalypse happening if you put AI together with weapon systems. Well, it's already happening, you guys. And we'd been talking about this for many, many years. There's a documentary I did called Biblical Terminators. And I told you how the Terminator films, the early Terminator films, overlaid elements of the Old Testament and the New Testament, and how the enemy was chasing after the bloodline of Christ before he was born in the wilderness. I think it's an accident that the Israelites were in the wilderness for 40 years. And then later, Jesus would be in the wilderness for 40 days. That's called a metaphor. That's a biblical metaphor. Jesus was hearkening back to his prior bloodline, the 12 tribes of Israel. He was from the tribe of Judah. He was the Lion of the tribe of Judah, one of the 12 tribes. And the biblical Terminators were coming after them. Well, Casey, where was the technology? Well, a lot of people believe the Ark of the Covenant was a technological device, some kind of tech that God gave the Israelites to protect them from the ensuing Terminators, who were much larger and much bigger, the Canaanites and all the tribes of the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Hittites, the Jebusites, anything with an "ite" after it. Do you think it's an accident that "ite" has IT in it, information technology? Now, I'm not saying they had the same technology we have today, but there was something different. The "ites" were the information technology. The "it." I think we unlocked another secret, you guys. The "its" were pursuing the tribes because they knew they had to annihilate Jesus before he was born, because they knew he was coming to save the world. Almost as though they went back in time, but they really didn't, right? But they knew the timeline, which is kind of like the same thing. Let's keep reading here. James Cameron may be exploring how artificial intelligence can assist directing blockbuster movies but he's still aware that his Terminator franchise could very much become a reality if AI gets into the wrong hands. Well, we've already got Reaper drones flying over American soil now, supposedly going after protests and as part of ICE to do facial recognition. When they had the No Kings movement, they were flying Reaper drones on American soil. They said they were only using facial recognition software to look at people's faces when they did wrong things and also identify illegals. But a line was crossed. So they're already using night vision technology. They're already using facial recognition from these drones. It's not a stretch to say that they'll weaponize these drones, and it's not a stretch to say that some might already be weaponized. Unbelievable. So here we are. Now there's just soft disclosure happening. He's saying, oh, this could happen. Well, we all knew it was going to happen a long time ago. Now, what else is going on? Well, we haven't had an update with Palanteer for a while. Let's check in with Palanteer. Now, here we are, you guys. Palanteer is now growing exponentially in size. They've crossed the $1 billion marks. And they're continuing to gaslight us as well by leaking the truth about what they plan to do. And again, I don't recommend betting on the stock market, but if you were a betting man, here we go again. Another stock that has doubled in size in 1 year after we said it would. First, we start talking about copper doubled. Then we start talking about lithium doubled. Now, there's Palanteer. Palanteer is growing exponentially in size. We knew they would be a key player in the growth of AI. We knew AI wasn't going away. And we knew that these foreign technologies, because remember, Palanteer was CIA, these foreign technologies have been brought home domestically. We knew that was happening. And we also knew this was a bipartisan effort, that both sides of the aisle were working on this secretly and silently, working with Palanteer to develop what has now become Project Gotham, which ended our privacy for good. They literally go into your cell phone data, your credit card purchases. They can even listen in on you and determine if you are likely to commit a crime, pre-crime. They literally admit this, you guys. Now, for the sake of this article, I'm going to pull this up because it's like people don't believe me. Everyone's focused on all this stuff, and here we are. You guys, this is worse than the NSA. This is worse than anything we've ever had before because there's computer technology behind it. There's artificial intelligence. Let's see if we can pull it up. Let's see here. Project Gotham. Now, several mainstream news outlets covered this. Let's see if they didn't sweep it away. Here it is. Here it is, you guys. This was way back in May. We reported on this when the story broke. New York Times. Let's see if there's a paywall. Here's the guy. Shoot, paywall. Well, let's go to the Economic Times. It looks like they covered the same story. Palanteer to create a vast federal data platform tying together millions of Americans' private records. Major federal contract that could reshape how the U.S. government uses data. Under the new agreement backed by the Trump administration, Palanteer will build a vast centralized data platform that connects sensitive records from across key agencies, the IRS, Social Security, immigration, and more. There's the key word. This platform, powered by Palanteer's Gotham software, is designed to analyze behavioral patterns in real time, flag potential threats, pre-crime, and support decisions around public safety and fraud detection. In other words, they send armed officers to your front door if you buy 6 bags of fertilizer because you have a farm. Palanteer isn't just improving old databases, it's building what some experts are calling the most expansive civilian surveillance infrastructure in U.S. history. Instead of scattered files and spreadsheets, the platform will use real-time data integration and artificial intelligence to profile behavior. I hope you are awake. Where's our truth community? You guys, this should be front page news every single day on the truth community. Project Gotham. Now, what else is going on? I had a story about, oh, here we go. Apparently now, if you have 6 fingers and 6 toes, now that's just a Photoshop error. Kris Jenner called out for having 6 toes, just like Kim and Kylie, an alleged Photoshop fail. Now we all know that this happens because the Bible says, right back to the biblical terminators, you guys, there were tribes that had 6 fingers and 6 toes mentioned in the Old Testament that were battling against the 12 tribes of Israel. They were the Nephilim. Nephilim holdovers, let's say, from the flood. Kris Jenner was called out for after seemingly sprouting a 6th toe. The reality star's feet raised eyebrows as she shared photos from her mom's 91st birthday lunch at the Ivy in Beverly Hills. Jenner, 69, rocked a chic Oscar de la Renta gown and accessorized with a matching cardigan, blah, blah, blah. Eagle-eyed fans sounded off in the comments, "You have 6 toes." While another quipped, "6-toe steppa." Holy smokes, you guys. And she's saying it's a Photoshop fail. Wow. So this is the reality we live in, you guys. Now, what else is going on in here? Lots of stories today. Hulk Hogan was seen in the clouds. Look at this. Now, this is not far from where the funeral was. Let's go up here. There's the iconic Hulk Hogan pose. And they're saying here, fans shocked by Hulk Hogan-shaped cloud that formed near his funeral. Scroll down here again. This is shocking. Kind of does look like it, doesn't it? Now, the inference here is he's in heaven, but he's probably, I don't know, who knows where this guy's at. None of us know. We're not the judge. But wow, that's pretty shocking. Now, of course, we know they can manipulate the weather. So they likely could have created this. Look, you could even see a face on here and the hair and everything. Wow. Look at even the chest muscles. They almost look like breasts to me, but what the heck is going on here, you guys? Now, what else do we have in here? Well, blobs are now in the news. They're saying a mysterious hot blob beneath the U.S. is moving toward New York, puzzling scientists. Is this the start of Goo York City, they say in this New York Post article? What the heck is this playing? UK scientists have discovered a massive blob of rock underneath the Appalachian Mountains. It's slowly oozing its way toward New York City per a slimy new study published in the journal Geology. The thermal upwelling has been a puzzling feature of the North American geology. The study's lead author said in a statement, officials dubbed the North Appalachian Anomaly the NA. This subterranean slime ball sits 125 feet deep. That's not that deep, you guys. And extends 220 miles across New England. The team reportedly discovered it using seismic tomography, like a CAT scan. Let's take a look at this thing. So here is the blob. And they're saying that it's moving. Where is it moving? It's moving toward New York City. I can't even see what this map is showing here. So creepy. Oh, that's Greenland there. A map showing how the Appalachian Mountain may have split from Greenland. The blob. Now, it's weird. There's blobs on land and blobs under the ocean. So there's something about this blob thing. This is why we do between the headlines. We're looking for patterns. And they're now saying that the blue whales in the ocean have gone silent. And they're saying it's because of another blob, this time under the ocean. Let's scroll down to that part here. They're calling it an ocean heat wave. And they're saying that the whales are starving. Here it is. Marine heating event began in 2013. Fukushima's 2011. We also had the dying starfish that we talked about on yesterday's show. It says, the marine heating event began in 2013 when a stubborn, dense pool of hot water, later dubbed the Blob, moved from the Bering Sea and the Gulf of Alaska down the eastern North American coast. So we've got ocean and land blobs, you guys. Now, of course, this could all be fake, but what we're looking at is patterns here. Why are they talking to us about blobs? That is the question, because there could be something else going on, right? Wow. Now, there are 2 Passion of the Christ films coming up. Let's go to that story. This time, it is the resurrection of Christ. And it looks like it's going to pop off next year, right around Easter. And there's basically, it's going to track the resurrection of Christ. This is a Mel Gibson pair of films. They're going to be 40 days apart, which is interesting because that is the age that I believe Jesus was when he was crucified. I believe he was 40 years old, not 33. Because it falls in line with everything, doesn't it? All the 40s we've been talking about. Now, we did an in-depth study on this and looked at the time frames and all these things. And the only thing that would discredit Jesus being 40 years old is if we were not counting all, if the New Testament did not count all of the, what was it? Now I got to go back in my memory banks here. People have studied the New Testament and found that they think Jesus was 33 based on counting the events, the biblical events of the calendar. But if some were left out, then he could have been 40. So if not all of them were recorded, then he could have been 40, right? So that's what I found. And that's the only thing that would discount him being 40 years old is when you count I think it was the Hebrew New Year's or something like, Passovers. They counted Passovers. That's what it was. Now my memory's coming back to me. So people counted the Passovers in the Bible. And if you count what we're told, then he would be closer into his 30s. But if you were to say, maybe they left some out, then he could have been a little bit older. So here are the sequels. A lot of people are probably going to go see this. Definitely something I should decode about this, but this is going to be really interesting, you guys. Now, let me check in with you guys. I got a couple more stories for you. Good morning. Is there anything you guys want to talk about? Let me read some of these chats in here. I like reading you guys' chat. And we'll finish up. Yes, 88022, text to Trump. Trump is the blob. Trump is the blob. Yes, Mike Morales, rest in peace. Barnacles, sea cucumbers, urchins, soft and hard bodies of ocean bottom feeders, says Margaret. Yes, that's what I found. Like, I found that it's a possibility Jesus could have been born BC. And they just messed the years up a little bit so that nobody would figure out that he was 40. So I don't want to go into too much detail about what we did because that was like 9 years ago we did that study. So I don't want to mess it up. But do your own research. There are other people who do believe Jesus could have been 40 when he was crucified. Some evidence we found was the movie The 40-Year-Old Virgin. That was a Christ mockery movie. Jesus was the 40-year-old virgin. What are you talking about, Casey? Well, remember the magic trick he does where he removes the girl's ear and puts it back? Well, that's the miracle that Jesus performed. in the Garden of Gethsemane when he was taken away to be crucified. So, spiritual meaning of blob. Trump is a blob. All right, let's get into these last couple stories here. What do I have here? Oh, South Park is popping off again, doubling down on this Trump in bed with Satan. This time they've added J.D. Vance for a menage a trois, ice raiding heaven, and Kristi Noem shooting dogs. Wow. Look at this, you guys. You can't make this up. Look how puffy they made his face here, JD Vance's face. Wow. Let's go see. Let's scroll down here. I haven't even seen this story yet. With a nod, a headbutt really to Donald Trump and masked ICE abductions of undocumented immigrants and U.S. citizens, South Park was very relevant tonight. Now, remember I told you that U.S. citizens were getting caught up in these ICE raids and abductions? Well, South Park is confirming that. Let's read through this here. Just ask J.D. Vance and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem a few years ago. I had to put my puppy down by shooting it in the face. Wow, because sometimes doing what's important means doing what's hard. The animated Noem says in the second episode of the 27th season of Trey Parker and Matt Stone's animated satire. Throughout the episode, Noem, who confessed to putting her own dog down, shoots multiple puppies. Oh my gosh. The bulletproof vest wearing Noem is addressing ICE agent recruits by video, including laid off South Park teacher Mr. Mackey. Perpetually camera ready former governor of South Dakota ends her video to the newbies by promising that together we will make sure everyone is in this country legally. Wow. So I'm sure some of you have already seen this. VP Vance made his South Park debut Wednesday. He stylized as a sycophantic tattoo from the original run of Fantasy Island to Trump's white-suited Mr. Rourke. Wow. It was both the best and worst Herv Villech's impersonation you'll ever get in up-to-the-minute prime time. In that, there was more on POTUS' love affair with an increasingly red-faced Satan, with the chubby-cheeked Veep offering a small tribute to Sean Diddy Combs via a promise of a massage of sorts to the fallen angel. Wow. Would you like me to apply the baby oil to Satan's... This is insane, you guys. This is literally insane. So, I'll put a link to this story. I'm not going to read any more of it because that's pretty crazy. Meanwhile, Leonardo DiCaprio is cozying up with Jeff Bezos on the mega yacht. Now remember, DiCaprio was known as being an environmentalist and not wasting anything and what we're doing to the planet. And now the gloves are off. These celebrities are just coming out with it. Wow. Leonardo DiCaprio has social media users raising their eyebrows after he was photographed boarding billionaire Jeff Bezos' mega yacht. Apparently, this yacht is worth $500 million. And DiCaprio is known as an environmentalist, seen boarding the boat. Wow. Reddit users didn't hesitate to blast DiCaprio over his outing with Bezos. This user said, "I feel like so many celebrities are just going full mask off right now." Someone wrote, "On one hand, it's nice they're no longer pretending to be righteous do-gooders, but it also feels so dystopian for someone like him to just fully embrace cozying up to MAGA billionaires after so many years of pretending to care about progressive causes." And that Reddit user hit the nail on the head. But as I told you guys, they don't care anymore because now they have Project Gotham. They're spying on us. So crazy, you guys, just insane. All right, I'm back in the chat for a little bit. Okay. Now, we all knew this all along. We had discussions about this. I said, you guys, this is all pretend. They're not really environmentalists. Look at their actions, not what they're saying. I said, this is all to create division among us so that they can usher in the final nail in the coffin for America, which is where we're at now, which is wide acceptance of projects like Project Gotham and, black bagging people, jump out crews, and everything else that we are now enduring. And you can say all you want that, oh, that's just to get rid of the illegals. No, that's just the Trojan horse. That's the cover story. They're going around and they're picking people up. And all they have to say is, oh, mind your own business. We're here to get illegals. And then, oh, that person just got arrested because they were interfering with the investigation. But really, they're just black bagging people. Meanwhile, they won't go after the deep state. They won't show us the deep state being arrested. Where are the dozens of people that were apparently running the country under Biden? Where are they? Why isn't Trump bragging about that? Why isn't Trump talking about the rights of all the victims of Epstein, saying that he's going to find justice for them or that he feels sorry for them? Where are those comments? Where's that commentary? There is none. And I'm hoping people are starting to wake up to this. That both the right and the left are the deep state. That's what we've been trying to tell you, but now it's kind of too late. The technology is now there for them to now slowly but surely pick off any enemy of the state, anyone that they feel is working against them, anyone that breaks through the algorithms and is able to develop any kind of massive following. And it's now obvious that they suppress certain channels that are telling you the real truth. And so here's where we're at, you guys. We did the best we could. I know you guys tried your hardest, but now here we are. So, all right, I'm in the chat. Yes, because he was there. Exactly. To the island for food. Yeah, the whole Fantasy Island aspect to it is pretty chilling, right? Because Fantasy Island is really like Epstein Island. People are dead in their sins. Yep. It's the Christ followers against the rest of the world. That's what it's come down to, hasn't it? Give your heart to the Lord. Yep, you can't make this up, right, Robert? Katie Johnson interview, says Daryl. Leo has his island as well. Yeah, I mean, I should go back and look through all the Fantasy Island episodes, at least read the synopsis. There's no way I could screen all those, but I'm going to do that next. I just bet you, even though that was from, what was that, the late 70s, early 80s, Fantasy Island, that series went on for like 10 years. I want to think. It was right around the time the Love Boat series came out. On the high seas, I bet you there's all kinds of inferences with that as well. Love Boat, Fantasy Island. Wow. Project Gotham is Project Got Them. Yep. Says Juliet. Got them. Trump is Batman. Trump owns a mansion on St. Bart's Island. All right, you guys. Well, I guess I'll see y'all tomorrow. Much love. Thanks for showing up. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Take care.